welcome back to another episode of Inside the Mirror Podcast. Today I have two special guests, some musician counterparts of mine, Justin and Glenn, both from Starr Blazerz. Happy to have you guys both. Glenn, we were getting into it. Let's keep going, man. You were just telling me like how you guys started and how you stopped right when you had met Justin and you thought he was something that he was not. Keep going, bro.
Yeah. So I met Justin on SoundCloud, and he had an instrumental called Teenage Wonderland.
And what year was this?
That was like
2013, right?
December 2013. And anyway, Justin had this crazy stuff, and I'd actually been doing a lot of recordings. I was doing a studio band with some guys in France at the time from Strasbourg called Les Mergris, which just means gray guys. It was a guy named Greg Vlexiks, and so he was like Gray Guy. And at the time, I was using a pen name when I did stuff in the hip-hop world called Gray, which is essentially my first letter of my first name, and the first letters of my last name. But so we ended up doing some stuff. Anyway, Justin kind of popped into the mix somehow, and I found his stuff, and we started writing to kind of really become like a production team. We wanted to find our own way to get songs to like Katy Perry's, or at least like create a puppet band like Milli Vanilli or something.
At the time, like I kind of was making some connections with some independent artists from the UK, and literally like I had been signed to like crappy management deals prior to that as a producer. And it seemed like everybody and their mom just wanted like deliver us songs, full songs with like full verses and hooks and everything. Which prior I was like kind of not familiar with that world because I was always like, let me just send the tracks to the artist and that's how the songs will get made. That wasn't reality, in like 2012, 2013. Everybody was wanting full records. So with my style, it was kind of hard to find like your average just songwriter who wanted to jump on stuff. So, Glenn was like the perfect fit because he had like a quirky style himself and, was very familiar with the influences that I was familiar with and that I was like sort of like piggybacking on.
Yeah, walk Kyle through those influences because that's one of the most.
I was just gonna say who would be the influences because you guys have a unique sound. Like I love it, I dig it. I spent about an hour listening on Spotify earlier. I dig it. Just the mesh of sounds is not your mainstream normal like this is a top 40 bippity bop, and just fill in the lyrics, right? Like just have Katie sing whatever I said. Like no, you guys got real music, like real sound. So tell me the influences. Where'd you guys get this from? Blows my mind.
It was like a thing where like the person who made me wanted to start like making beats was Pharrell Williams. Like when I heard and it was the Noriega song Super Thug. Like that like that little like electric clavichord loop was kind of like what made me want to get into production. But as far as like deeper than that, it was a lot of European sounds. It was a lot of like the Kraftwerk, the Pet Shop Boys. The
Explain that to him, though, Justin. Like, how did you like run into all this stuff? Like, what's your background that led you?
Yeah, because aren't you a dude from the East Coast?
I spent 2 years in Germany as a kid.
Oh, okay.
And they were like two of the most, I would say, influential years in my life because it was like ages like 5 and 6 when I was just being exposed to radio, and that's what I heard. And then it was like in that part of my life is when like quote unquote like big beats were like always on my stereo, like Salt Push, and then a little bit later than that like Dr. Dre and The Chronic, and it was like the production became something that was more electronic, it was more emphatic. And it was sort of like right up my alley and it appealed to my ears. And sort of like, that's where I wanted to go with my stuff all the time. But with that, it was like hard to find other people that related to it.
For sure.
It was, so like I'd be sending beats to all these like A&R people or whatever. And they'd be like, oh, it's pretty cool. And then you never hear anything. And then, I was kind of like at my wit's end with it all. I was ready to give up. And you know, just over, like Glenn said, over SoundCloud, just like connecting and talking to people. And then like you said, I had a track. It was called Teenage. He uses the accent Teenage Wonderland on it. Literally, there was a V. It was called Teenage Wonderland. That's what it was called.
Uh-huh. There's that UK
was,
influence, huh? That's kind of the German influence come through.
100%. And it was done pretty much to be like, that track was supposed to be like my ode to like the Eurythmics.
Dig it.
And then like Glenn gravitated to it, and that song became our first single, Found That Soul, that came out in 2014.
And Glenn, tell me again, like your background was not the same as his, was it? You guys kind of came from different musical backgrounds, if I can put it that way. You worked with a lot of hip hop people too.
Yeah, so I really kind of was guided into it, but it's funny because that's where I started out. So when I was when I learned how to sing when I was like 11, 12, it was because of Prince. I mean, I
really?
had a bunch of new wave records when I was 10, and so that were like you know, like Eurythmics and all that stuff. But what made me want to sing was Prince going, yeah, you know, doing crazy.
Let's go.
So I was like, I want to be able to fucking screech like Prince does, and I want to be able to do what Prince does. So like I really started a journey to learn how to sing. And then when I was in high school, I was actually a pretty good R&B singer. At the time, this is I don't want to date myself too much, but it was like a lot of metal and stuff going on. So there wasn't a lot of like really good. There was some good like alternative tentacles, alt music and SST, and like there's a bunch of labels in the West Coast that were doing cool stuff. Dinosaur Jr. was kind of starting out, and Sonic Youth was starting out, but there wasn't a lot of stuff that was cool other than maybe like Living Color that was happening in music. So I was just like really into learning how to sing really well and then play guitar. So like I had these kind of diverse pathway thing going on, and then I kind of really fell in love with like Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and stuff in the early 90s and songwriting. Really led it all back around was guys wanting me in hip hop to not sound like an R&B singer. And that was the thing Anna always told me. And we talked about this before the interview started, but that was kind of how I cut my teeth in the hip hop production world. Was I was introduced to S1 in 2007, and that was really where everything started. We started demos, but he always said, Glenn, don't ever change what your sound. You know, you have a very unique sound for what you're doing. That's important. Hedge out a path for yourself, and I think it's great. Don't change it. And that was before he was doing anything, but like, you know, on
like you said, he got that Kanye Power song, and then things took off for him. But you said you got a catalog of 200 songs, maybe sitting somewhere. Am I right?
For sure. Well, funny story. So the original song that kind of was my breakout in the industry was Push Through. But the funny story about that song is that Push Through was picked up by Talib Kweli, and they had Currency and Kendrick Lamar guest on it. But while it was all being done in 2012, Kanye was obsessed with S1 material because he just had gotten he'd already got, and they were doing Watch the Throne at the time too. So like S1 was going to Peter Gabriel's Edge of the World Studios in Bath, England, and going to Australia to mix that. So Kanye was digging through his catalog, and he found Push Through, and he goes, "Hey man, who's that R&B sister from Detroit that you sampled?" Like he thought coming from the 60s on that song. So the whole thing, what's kind of cool about me and Justin too is that I was misidentified in the same way I misidentified Justin. And so we're kind of these little these lost puppies that have found being together.
These two rogue musicians that somehow came into connection. I love it. Like, but as you guys have like come together and you've formed this group, obviously, how like did you guys met on SoundCloud? So you guys have a different process than an in the studio normal, you know, me, you, and engineer type process, right? Like talk about that. How do you do it from? You're in Canada, and you're on the East Coast.
Yeah, for initially, was just us doing demos that we were intending to trying to like kick to other artists, and I got some feedback from the artists, and every artist said these are good, but it sounds like it's like y'all's thing, you know, as opposed to it sounding like something someone else wanted to pick up on at the time.
For sure.
So, I think it was Glenn who said, you know, why don't we just go ahead and do this ourselves, as opposed to you know trying to be a writing production team for other artists. Let's just do it ourselves. And I was actually at the time not familiar at all with the mixing and mastering process. And he was like, well, you have the tracks on your computer. Why don't I just send you the vocals and you can mix them? And I was like, I was like, okay. I like nonchalantly, like I do that on the regular.
Right. No big deal. I got you, man, for sure.
Hey, I had never done it before. And the first track that he sent for that purpose was a song on our first album called The Ring. And it has like this crazy, like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, like bathhouse club vibe to it. And it's crazy, but it turned out really great. And after that, it was like, well, that one worked out well, so why not do Hunted? And then why not do, other ones? And then it just kind of spiraled, and then we ended up with like 10, 12 songs that were done, and they sounded very quote unquote Starr Blazerz-ish. They had our own feel to it. And
what would you describe your sound as? Like if someone just walked up to you and said, hey, I heard you make music, what's your sound like? Describe yourself.
I say it's all pop.
I would say it is the sound of Milli Vanilli fucking Phanogram.
I like this, Glenn. You got some words, man.
Yeah, he gets like the like offensive, like rubs the wrong way around.
No, I like it. I like it.
No, the thing about it is typically.
It makes you guys unique. That's the whole thing. Like since I came on to you guys, I think it was through Twitter, right? Wasn't it through Twitter that we caught each other?
I caught you on Twitter, and then I instantly added you on Instagram.
That's right.
I didn't, not everybody responds to certain things as quickly via their socials. So
for sure,
I think I hit you on both avenues to see.
As soon as I started hearing, like as soon as I saw you, I always try to click links and be like, are these people trash or like, you know what I mean? And I was like, man, I was just hit with like sounds. I'm telling you, man, like that's what I still couldn't like. If someone asked me describe these guys, it would be hard for me because I would use a million different words and then they would be confused. You know what I mean? Because it's just
we're like a more ghetto version of churches.
What's that? Say it again.
We're like a more ghetto version of churches.
Oh, I love that. You guys are like the street choir. How about that?
Yeah.
But you guys have the hip hop infusion.
It's like churches,
but it's like
a little bit
musical
more
hip hop.
irreverent.
Go ahead.
A little more. It's like churches, but a little more irreverent, a little more hip hop, a little more like I don't give a fuck kind of.
Right.
But
it's not strong. It's not hardcore hip hop. Like it's just got so many elements. It's a lot of music. It's musical. It's not just beats and lyrics. It's music. I admire it a lot.
It's weird that Justin completely kind of invokes the same spirit that JMC, the producer of Phanogram, does. Like he has a very strong foot in both doorways of pop and hip hop. And that's why we connected so well, because I hadn't had that hip hop really thing professionally until probably 5 years before I met him. But then I was pretty well versed in what,
with the people you're working with. I mean, you're within good company as far as hip hop goes.
Yeah, I was like sharing records with Macklemore and Rhymefest and
right. Talk about that, because I was reading your bio and I started seeing these names, like you said, Talib Kweli, Macklemore, Rhymefest. Like I'm starting to see these. I'm like, okay, these guys are not a joke. This is not just two guys, in their garage clanging on pans, right? Like what was interacting with these big names like you were on some tracks with some big names.
What's funny is the environment we live in now, there's not a ton of interaction, to be quite honest with you, until you get to the point where you're dealing with a label who wants you to record in front of somebody. Like everyone kind of holed up in their house recording these days.
Right.
So like what Justin and I do is very natural. And that's really how I kind of did, outside of working with S1, who I would almost always go to his house at first. The last 3 years after he got really successful, we mostly did recordings where I worked out of my house and did stuff. So I had to get really good at vocal production, effects and stuff. But like with Macklemore, that was off me and S1 made a sample catalog, and
oh really?
Macklemore used there's a song. It's actually a really terrible song called "White Shoe" that starts out with me going, "Oh yeah," and the whole song's like based on that riff that I did. But then it goes in.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm not gonna take your word that it's bad. I'm gonna look it up myself.
It's super bad.
I'm not gonna.
And then I sampled on a song called "Little Death" by Lupe Fiasco.
That's the other name, Lupe. That's the other name that I was trying to think of.
Yeah, but like it's the last part of what I've done in hip hop is in the kind of sample and whatever world isn't really as big of a broad statement as what we're doing now. So the thing about like being able to work with Justin is we have this shared vision. We have a strong identity now, and we kind of, as he was saying, we built that kind of from the start when people are going, that just sounds like you guys. That's not like a generic pop song. So once we jumped onto that, we immediately had people interested in it. Like we had 2 UK record deals that we had that guys wanted.
I saw that too.
Overseas.
Yeah, they were terrible though. Like I'm not trying to like name drop, but they were. I don't know if Glenn and I were like overzealous a little bit, but first of all, we were in a position where we were new. First of all, we were new to each other, and then we were new to putting out like albums to the world. At least I was.
For sure.
And then we decided to put out 2 full 14-song albums.
I saw that.
When nobody even cares who we are. So it was like a counterintuitive thing that we were doing. But we were, in my opinion, we were so caught up in like, man, this is awesome. We have all this material. Let's let the world hear it. And then the world didn't care because they don't know who we are. They don't know who Glenn is. They don't know who I am. They don't have, they're not piggybacking off of like a major single or anything like that. So there was really no reason for us to do what we did. But it's like, in hindsight, I'm glad we did it because as things start to like move positively, they can always go back and listen to other things in our catalog. For sure. And like my personal take on our most recent release, or our most recent EP, the Resurgence. Yeah, is like that. To me, that is Starr Blazerz' introduction. And
you would say the 2 previous albums were more just getting in reps and building that catalog and getting the chemistry right?
They were, and they were also, like I said, us being, I think, a little overzealous, thinking that, oh my God, we're signed to a label. They're going to make us into huge stars and they're going to give us a budget. And I remember asking them multiple times, like, well, the first thing we need is a video budget. Can we get a video? And then they were like silent, no video budget. Okay, well, then can we grow our presence on socials? Sure. And can we get streams up so that people hear us, and then they can vibe with us, and then we can do like radio promo, and then like actually get together and do things as a group. Silent. Nothing. So, I mean, I don't even know why we were even signed in the first place, to be honest with you. It was like, it sounds like you already knew exactly what you needed anyway. So you could, we knew we needed. In hindsight, you might not needed them, right? Oh, well, we don't have them now. Fair enough. There you go. No, I'm like, no offense, but I'm just saying, like, we don't have them now, and we're doing more things currently than any other company that has like messed with us has ever done for us. Right. So. Well, I was always massively obsessed with British music, whether it was like pop or like Keyless or a Massive Attack or Tricky or whatever. And so like when we had the chance to like put out a catalog of songs digitally overseas with people promoting it in England, that was like a strong kind of thing that seemed like a legitimate kind of way to kick things off. Right. It didn't really turn out the way we wanted it to either time, but I think it looks good on our resume.
For
So
sure.
as we move forward, like when you do a band of the guy, it's like, yeah, you know, we didn't have success, but 2 British labels wanted to put out our stuff. It still looks good.
Sure, for sure. You were getting traction. That just shows that you had traction, and that you weren't just, you know, Joe with the purple hair on SoundCloud just banging on things. Like you guys
really noticed that we did have people that were listening, and that there was a demographic out there for us.
Mm-hmm.
Even though even now, like, it's kind of hard, I think, for us to, like you said, you know, it's like sound, all this stuff, and it's like this influence, that influence. Therefore, it's hard to say because it's not just like trap or rap or you know, it doesn't go into one category off the bat. So,
for sure.
But the fact that we did get picked up so early in our, I guess, like in our collaborative journey was a great sign, because really, like, looking back, sometimes I'm like, damn, like, I shouldn't have put that song out. I shouldn't have mixed that song that way. It's a bad idea to do this and that. But whatever,
But you
you
learn
know.
from it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You do for sure.
Yeah.
And that's where it puts us where we are today. And I think we are kind of like stronger because of those fails.
Sure. I mean, I believe in that 100%. That I could look back at my life, and I'm sure all 3 of us could, and go, oh man, I failed here. Not just music, but in life, where you go, oh man, I messed up here. I should have done this. Shouldn't have dated her. Should have done that. You know what I mean? But when you look back and when you have a good perspective, you can go, okay, but I can learn this from it. I learned this from, you know, it's really the learnings that you take from the failures that you carry forward.
Successful people,
especially with guys like you that have continued to do it and you didn't quit, right? And Glenn, you probably got a lot to say.
Successful or / interesting people aren't afraid to take risks.
100%.
So people that are afraid to take risks generally are never going to get above like baseline interest in whatever they're doing, because they're never going to differentiate from anybody else. And I've always been okay with not towing a line that exists, playing to our strengths, and at the risk of nobody ever caring. And, you know, for 6 years, nobody really did. Building up a little bit of, you know, if you stick it out long enough and you love what you do, and you put out things that are unique and artistic and show off something that makes it an enviable craft, you're going to find people that will gravitate toward it. And that's what happened with it.
Have you guys been, I mean, like you said, we're kind of in this time in the music industry where we're all pretty already quarantined remotely by default anyways, the way that we're all making music these days. Have you guys been affected by COVID at all? I mean, obviously we're all affected in certain ways, but has your process been affected at all? Or are you guys still kind of pumping at the same level?
I think our process has kind of been, like, honestly, kickstarted a little bit more.
Really?
I mean, in my opinion, I mean, like, my day job is I'm a special education teacher. So I think I want to say like March 15th roughly was when my job like shut down.
Right.
So, and that was, I want to say, a month and a half into our like promotion for the Resurgence. Yeah. So when that happened, we kind of started talking about ways that we're gonna, like, what do we do further? Like, how do we promote this further?
Right.
Once COVID happened, and, you know, Glenn's in Canada, so travel restrictions from the U.S. to Canada were shut down.
Right.
So initially, our plans of doing a music video, I was going to go to Toronto and we were going to do a video for Confession Booth, but that wasn't able to happen. So we decided to keep pushing forward with new material. And, you know, we had material in the work. Honestly, like, our new release, The Climb, was a song on an old project.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. Do you want me to cover it now, or do you want me to wait?
Talk about it, bro. I dig that song. Let me interject this. So I found the song when I was listening to, I think it was the 2017 or 18 project you guys put out. The original was on. Yeah. And then I was when I was listening today, I was like, wait, there's this other version too. And I was like, I like both of these. This is genius. So talk about that.
Well, The Climb we did in 2018 or 2017. And it's got this it's like a hip hop, pop, alternative sort of record with a trap feel to it. It's got my homie Makia on the verse. He's a dope MC, and we did it. And the label, we didn't have a single on that album. Basically, it was just more like the album came out and they just started like blasting spam, if you will, regarding the album to their contacts. We did not have a single we were working on like as far as like one record. I think to the both of us, we always felt like that song had a lot of legs, like it could do something, and it was almost ahead of its time. Like it came out and it didn't do anything because nobody did anything with it.
Right.
So we kind of figured like while we're in this stage of we put an EP out, why don't we now start to put out singles to piggyback on the EP and get some traction for individual records. And that song just seemed like such a good fit for right now. So we decided to master it, re-release it. That was like a touchy thing because like distributors won't let you re-release a song that's already been out.
Right.
So I had to add like this little like outro segment to it. So that it like made the WAV file bigger than the original one.
Is that all it was?
Yeah, that's all it was. Yeah. It was like 5 seconds I added at the end that makes the WAV go from like 40 megabytes to 41 megabytes. So therefore, it doesn't recognize it as the same file.
Right. I love that.
So yeah, we decided to re-release it and do some new artwork, make it really edgy, and boom, it came out last Friday, and we're almost up to 10,000 streams on it.
Nice, let's go.
And we're probably probably going to release another single called Quarantine in about 3 to 4 weeks, featuring Johnny Polygon, another artist who we collabed with recently. So like we're kind of moving in this at the moment, this very quote unquote like single centric marketing plan with maybe an EP coming out in the fall, I think. But yeah, we're just kind of moving as we go along. We're kind of just seeing how things form for us. We really want to take the next step, though. Going from being, we went from being basically unknown totally, and really not getting any respect or any feedback for our music at all. It was like we put out music and nothing happened at all. And now we're at a point where things are growing.
Sure.
Sort of like trying to hit that next wave of going from nothing to now something, and then going from something to wow,
more.
Yeah,
right.
really something special.
And now, as far as music together, like, what's the vision? Like, where do you guys see yourself? I'm not talking like, what's your 5-year plan? But like, you guys obviously, like Glenn even said, you guys have a shared vision as far as the music goes. Like, what is the vision? What is your vision for the music?
I mean, if you're gonna ask me, I would say we're going down a path that Phanogram, Churches, Missio, like those kind of bands have traveled. And so the beauty of what we're doing is we are lean and mean. It's a 2-man unit. We can add, and if we ever get to a point where we want to take the show on the road, you can add 1 or 2 people. I would add a projectionist or something really badass, kind of light show. I'd love to play off the fact that the name Starr Blazerz comes from my growing up with anime cartoons from Japan. There was a show called Starr Blazerz. That was like these guys like take a ship off Earth, became like a mess. It was uninhabitable, and they take this like ship into space to try to save Earth.
It's really boring, actually, if you ever watch it.
It's actually pretty awesome if you.
But that's where the group name originated.
Well, that and like Gangstar with 2 R's. So like so like I threw in that hybridization idea, like this STARR, kind of be like a nod to like old school hip hop and stuff. And it just kind of like, it was a nice kind of a hybridization of like me and Justin's lives, you know, like we're both kind of, like I said, we're one foot in two different doors.
Yeah.
So
who has the more electronic influence of you two?
Well, I think that taste-wise, we both have very strong footing in like electronic music. I mean, maybe when it comes to production, since if I'm putting out the sounds, and then it might seem like it's more me, maybe. But like when we chop it up about influences, like some of those really groundbreaking synth pop bands are both like staples. Like the Human Leagues and the Pet Shop Boys and the Kraftwerks. And like for me on the production end, like even people that maybe, I don't know, like some people think maybe they suck or they're like really cheesy, like Max Martin to me is amazing. Or like a Giorgio Moroder, who's one of like the synth pop gods. People like that.
There's the Milli Vanilli.
There he is again.
Yeah, I mean that album is really good.
It is like, good.
I don't, I had that album in my car, the tape in like 1998. Still.
Funny story. Right before I met Justin, I was trying to like break into. I realized that PM Dawn was still a thing, and the guys that were in the original inception of it were either dead or like severely ill. And the brother of one of the guys in PM Dawn was kind of keeping the ship going. And he and I had several phone conversations about like how we could like start a new version of it. But then
really?
He was fucking insane and I didn't want to deal with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was batshit crazy.
Really?
And so it was just not even
not
if
the right move.
Interested in doing it, would have been a miserable experience. So I was excited to meet a really cool, normal, badass production guy in Justin that we could have our own path. But yeah, the PM Dawn too. That's a cutting edge record. That 1990 record they did that's on the same level. And I feel like if Justin was 25 years older, he would have had a hand in stuff like that, production wise. So yeah, it's really good to combine the two of us. And what's fascinating too is you listen to the records we've done, and it sounds like we always talk about this. It sounds like we're two guys that grew up in the same town and like lived down the street from each other and like just threw down and got in the studio together. And we've literally never sat face to face and talked.
You guys have never met face to face?
This is the first time we've ever face to face chatted, I think.
What? Whoa, this is crazy. Pause. All right. This is a monumental moment on Inside the Mirror podcast. I've brought you two together. Justin, meet Glenn. Glenn. Justin.
Hi. We've had like 100 phone conversations. But yeah.
Justin, turn to your right now.
This is like a TikTok video. One of those TikTok videos where they're like talking to each other.
Yeah.
Glenn, how the heck did you get to Canada from Dallas, Texas? Because you were saying, obviously you started here, you messed with S1 for years, and now you're wearing a Blue Jays hat and you're in Toronto.
Yeah, I'm in the land of Drake and the Weeknd.
Yeah, what happened?
So I got my company asked me if I would be willing to transfer to Toronto back in December of 2018. So the Resurgence EP was recorded at my exodus from the United States. So that was the last I did in the United States was that record.
That's dope. Do you like it up there?
What's funny about it is, what's that?
Do you like it up there? Being in
Toronto is like New York City, like a more European version of New York City, even. A slightly smaller version. It's like if New York and London and Chicago had a baby.
I love it. I've heard great things.
It's an amazing city, and the people here are so diverse. Like there's just people from. I have so many British and Irish friends here, and like Jamaican friends and Korean. Like there's just people from all over the world. It's a truly international city in the sense that a London or New York is. the weather in the summer is very San Diego like. The music here is badass. Just the people are really cool. Canada's a cool country in that they really do like give a shit about people, and that's one of my takeaways from being up here is that kind of a little bit more like I like Big Brother's not watching me, but he's like he's stroking my neck
instead of I get it. That's
it's
dope,
cool to
man.
say you're from Toronto right now too.
And Justin, go ahead.
No, I was saying it's cool to say you're like in Toronto now.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to we're truly an international duo right now.
Because
100%.
of people like Drake and The Weeknd and like I think it's like Roy Woods. It's like Toronto is like that hot spot that like for a while like A&Rs didn't want to go to Atlanta.
Right.
And then it was like Atlanta was everybody moved to Atlanta, and because I think Toronto is like that kind of like like.
Well, there's a lot of artists coming out of Toronto now. It's almost like Drake kind of set off this domino effect where like Drake, we got Tory Lanez, and The Weeknd, and there's just now you just see tons of people coming out of Toronto, just like popcorn. It's like pop, 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 pop.
It's funny because the first place, actually, remember Justin, the first radio play we got for The Ring when that came out way back in 2015 was here in Toronto.
Toronto, yeah.
Oh, really?
We were like I submitted a song, the first song we ever actually like mixed together, The Ring, to a like online radio station, and it was like you submit and then you got to listeners got to pick and like rate your song, and our song got to number 1.
Dope.
And then like and the station like went under like 2 weeks later.
But not because of you.
Predictive.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but yeah, that was cool. That was actually a really good impetus for like us wanting to keep going forward, I think.
Sure, a nice spark at the beginning is not a bad thing. It gives you a little bit of confidence. You're like, okay, that popped off a little bit in another country. That's encouraging.
But some of the
Where
other
are you guys
artists
sitting
who were
right
on
now
that countdown were like really bad though, so I don't know.
Yeah, but look, you got to number 1 and they went under. That's not your fault.
Yeah.
Justin, you have an interesting style because I was looking through your Twitter feed and I looked through your Instagram feed, and like you are not trying to be anything that you're not. Like you have a strong like I'm me vibe. I really dig that. Like were you always like that? Were you always just like I'm gonna do what I want? Like I got the Weeknd hair, I got these glasses, like I got the cutoffs and the guns. I'm me.
That kind of came as I got more entrenched in the music, really. Because as I started to get more unapologetic, because initially I was like always trying to be somebody else. It was always like, all right, we need a Dre like beat, or we need a short kind of like beat, and I was always like, nah, I'm kind of just like, I like being in the studio and doing my own thing, and I don't want someone telling me what to do.
Right.
And when I wrap my brain around like, either I'm gonna do it how I want to do it and make it how I want to make it, or I will just not make it at all.
I dig that.
That's where that kind of came from. And then it was like, you know what, I'm gonna do my own kind of like photo shoots, and I'm gonna dress how I want to dress, and I'm gonna make records how I want to make them. And that's kind of like also the way that I feel like Glenn writes his records, is he writes them the way that he wants to write them, and then we come together and we tweak it and we make it work. But neither of us really tries to like tell the other person how to do their craft. So it comes together in a way that like really meshes very well. And like back to your initial question, yeah, like as I got more into just doing my own thing and learning more and more and more about like myself, I just like, I don't care. Like the biggest people in the industry, like the Pharrell, the Timberlands, the Quincy Jones, they don't care.
They don't care at
So
all.
I don't have a problem telling someone or acting like I don't care. If you don't like it, don't buy it, don't talk to me. That's cool. But taking those little mini lessons from the quote unquote gods of the sport that you're in, I think influenced me being able to be just who I am. And not really worry about it.
I'll dig that, man. And then it almost sounded like you were saying that music literally gave you your identity. At least that's what it sounded like to me. Because you were like, I was trying to make, these type beats. And then as soon as you were able to just be like, I want to make the music I want, you were like able to become like the person you wanted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it's so freeing, being in the studio and creating. And, when you hear something that, just intrinsically works for you, take like you were talking about earlier, those influences we were talking about, all that stuff wrapped up into one, the Dr. Dre's and the Human Leagues and the Quincy Jones and, that weird mesh of whatever, or maybe it's like Mutt Lange from Def Leppard days, whatever, sort of when I hear that chord or that sound, and I'm like, whoa, like that works for me really, really well. And if I feel this way, then there's definitely like a million other kids out there that will get the same feeling. And maybe you don't. If you don't, that's cool. But if I feel this way, then I can send it to Glenn, and he's digging it too, and we both vibe off it and feel the same way about it. Then it's like we have to be on to something.
100%. It's that artistic intuition almost. Like I hear this, I feel this, therefore I'm not the only one. There's something there.
Yeah. But then after that, it's like, well, then when you feel that way, how do you market it? Because then it's unfortunately, you're a musician too, dude. It's like this is a music quote business.
Yep.
There is a business side to it all, and there are people who, once you record that piece of music, after that, to other people, you are now a product.
100%.
So other entities have to, think about how do they sell this product. And when you think you hear something cool and you think you can market it well, or you think you've got this like thing going for you, they've got to think about it like, who's going to buy it?
Right.
How do I sell it? And then, I was just talking to Glenn about this a few weeks ago. Like, we're at a point now where we're gonna have to like brand Starr Blazerz. Like, what is the Starr Blazerz brand? Who do we sell it to? Our audience is pretty wide.
For sure.
So it's difficult to think about how do you brand something that's so diverse.
Sure.
So I don't know right now, but that's what we've been thinking about.
And that just shows, in my opinion, that just shows you're deep in the process, which I love. I think that's amazing. Like, the whole thing is the process. Like people that you mentioned, like Quincy and Pharrell and the people at the top, they were in their process till the very end, and then boop, now they're at the top. But like, it's like that thing where the meme on the internet that's like, you see this much of the iceberg, but really there's that much. That's exactly where it sounds you guys are at. Is in the process, in the grind, which is where we should be.
When you compare it to like Pharrell, it's like Pharrell, he got picked up so young, and got to work with like Teddy Riley at like 19. Think about if like Starr Blazerz had Teddy Riley, like, okay, you guys should do it like this. Then it would be like, whoa. But part of our benefit, I think, though, is having to do it on our own so far, and we've been able to formulate our own sound, own vibe, without anybody else sort of like taking us under their wing thus far. And for me, it makes it kind of like harder to grapple with the idea of anyone even being around at all. Because all I know is I'll work on a track, send it to Glenn, he'll record vocals, we'll chop it up about that, what works, what doesn't work, mix it, boom. That's the process. There's nobody saying like, well, we're looking at going with a style that's this way or a BPM on this tempo. And, it's all just like on us and what we think is going to work. So it would be strange to have like a parent company come in and be like, well, this is our itinerary for the next 6 months, and we need you to make this kind of song and that kind of song.
But in the same sense, I think that what we think are hits, anybody else would. Like when we did The Climb, when it was completed, I was like, oh, this fucker gives me goosebumps. Like, this is a fucking
Bro, I think that too. Like, and I'm a new listener, and I'm like, that song's a hit. I'm telling you.
And the same thing with Confession Booth. When we did that song, I was like, oh, this is a fucking great song. Like, this is a really good tune.
That's the second song off the EP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that song a lot too.
I think Confession Booth kind of takes us a little bit out of what we were doing previous. A little bit, because it was, in my opinion, it was our first, like, that's a pop record kind of song. And I think that's great. That's cool. It was just that when that happens, it's a great thing, because then it's like, all right, well, the bar is The Climb, and then the bar is Confession Booth. So from a production standpoint, like, I can't half-ass anything. Like, nothing's, this is where it is.
Right. You set your own bar.
Yeah, it's like after, like, Adam Levine does, like, whatever, like the first Maroon 5 album. It's like, well, we can't go back to prior to,
Right.
So it's a great process though, because like you push yourself further and further. And like if you hear some of the songs that like Glenn and I have in the wing, like waiting in the wing right now, we've got a record. We've got Quarantine. We've got Countdown. We've got Empire Dreams, 9 Inch Nails. Like we've got 4 records like
stacked that
are like, I mean, when I say these are singles, these are singles. So hitting that stride for us has been very euphoric.
I'm sure that's got to be a good place to be like, okay, we're fine. Like we're here. Like we can make this. We can make The Climb. We can make Confession Booth. Like now you just push yourself to continue that.
It's all about us. It's finding those other listeners though. Like, unfortunately, it's like corporate. You got to try to find those people that can really help you with your situation, and kind of see if what they offer you or what they want reflects what you're trying to do.
100%.
We've gotten that. We've gotten a few like big wigs who have hit me up, and they like seem they have a good intention, but all of a sudden they want some money for something.
Right.
But it's part of the process. So.
Right. Glenn, you seem like you are just like on another level, like an Elon Musk level, like musical, like that type of like plane. Like, tell me, like for you, Glenn, like how is it going from being super artistic and like that's what I'm trying to say. You just seem like you have the most artistic brain like in the world. Like, how do you guys go from straight art to like Justin, like you're saying? You're crazy creative too. Then you got to flip on the business switch and play business guys. Like, how does that work for you? Is that a tough switch?
I've never been like Justin's the guy driving the business bus on this band. I've always been.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling.
The artistic guy, and I understand when I'm weird because I understand I've been actually way farther around the block than Justin has with professional music stuff. I mean, I've had 5 or 6 record deals over the course of my life since the 80s, and got very close to some other ones. But Justin's like really kind of got a grasp on where the industry is now and how to do things. And we've kind of both seen together, and I've seen in the past how to not do things at all, from street dinosaurs and just people that didn't know what they were doing, like bloated overspending on production, etc. So really I feel like my job is to, continue to just provide a solid sense of the kind of the tire pressure gauge. Like, yeah, this is good, or like, that feels right. Like, we have a lot of those conversations where we'll talk about like, hey, should we hit up so-and-so about trying to like, is it the right time for us to push these songs digitally to Europe yet? Or like, what does it mean to try to like conquer Africa with music right now? Like, we have
strategy.
Yeah, where it's like, well, is it even feasible? Like, should we expend our energy on it? What'll it cost? What benefits will we get out of it? So I'm kind of just like the sounding board for his him driving the engine, but he's really been the guy who's taking this thing next level. It's funny, we had 2 labels that we really thought were going to be game changers for us, and at the end of the day, he was the game changer, and he's really been the guy that's like driven the car a little bit on it. And all I can do is try to keep up and continue to support in whatever ways I can. You know, we try to split the cost of any expenditures we have to marketing or whatever. And
sure. It sounds like you both. There's some type of, you guys have this organic connection that's so crazy because you haven't met each other. It's still tripping me out that you guys literally have this amazing chemistry found off of SoundCloud. It blows my mind.
We also kind of have like slightly similar personalities in the sense that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like, the same sort of jokes, like we might make the same kind of jokes, or like we're not the kind of people that are easily offended or like too sensitive. So we kind of like have irreverent humor a lot, and you know, so it kind of works on that level.
Personalities match well.
Yeah.
It's been good too, because when Justin and I met, I was in the middle of the end of a 20-year relationship / marriage.
Oh, wow.
The beginning of the band with me lyrically was real dark. And then I've just kind of like slid into more and more of kind of a lighter, like less like intense thing. And we've talked about this too. Like I would give him a hard time about.
Oh, the one fight we got was over the climb, actually.
Really? Okay. What happened?
Yeah, there was the one time Glenn sent me the vocals for the climb, and for some reason my audio interface was like, the volume was like jacked up super loud, and so I loaded his vocals in and I played. I was like, damn, I was like, they're too screechy. I was like, I can't mix. I put like so much EQ on the vocals, and I was like, they're just so screechy. It was because my volume was like so high.
That was crazy.
And so I emailed him and I was like, dude, can you re-record them? And then Glenn was like, first this and this, and then the volume's this way. And I was honestly ready to just, I was like, you know what? Starr Blazerz is done.
Oh, wow.
I'm not arguing. I was like, I'm not arguing about this. This is so stupid. And so I didn't say anything for like a day. And then he was like, sorry, dude, I'm going through a tough time. And then I was like, my bad. My volume was too loud. The vocals are fine.
No worries. It sounded amazing. My fault.
Yeah, it was just the volume.
That was one.
But you guys haven't really had any? Go ahead, Glenn.
No, we had, the other thing that was funny was at some point Justin had dropped one of his synthesizers.
Oh my God! Let's not talk about that, man.
And
let's talk about it.
so anyway, it has like a tuner where like it'll put it in and out of like relative pitch. So like it's actually cool because like if you're sampling something and it's like the sample is like rate is like weird and you're trying to play over something that's like slow or whatever and it's different, you can adjust the pitch of it.
Oh, dope. But
his had accidentally moved and he didn't realize it. So he was recording songs that were like somewhere between relative pitch and like it was like a microtone.
No, dude, I have a huge keyboard, and I'm not gonna tell you the full story behind what happened, but I dropped the keyboard. Okay, the keyboard fell on its back. I picked it up, whatever, but. And then when I started recording and everything seemed like it was fine. What I didn't know that was like Glenn was saying, the keyboard has like a pitch thing. And when you're at 0, that means you're right in tune.
Yes.
It moved somehow to a -400. And I didn't know. So I was sending songs that were like way detuned.
So I thought he was pulling this thing like, all right, let's see if you can really sing, fucker, because there's no pitch correction for this shit. I thought it was some kind of thing. I thought he was like, I actually kind of liked it because I thought he was like some kind of like dude that was like, you know what? No fake singers. If you can actually sing, you can sing over -400.
You were like, this is an authenticity test.
It was a total accident. And then that was Found That Soul. The first thing we ever did was recorded like that.
Really? And you still were like, we dig it, we like the sound, we're going with it.
Well, I didn't know. It wasn't until like 2 or 3 songs later that he mentioned it. And then I like went back into like, I was like YouTubing like, why would a keyboard be out of pitch? And like everything was like, if your keyboard's out of pitch, your keyboard's broken, get a new keyboard.
Oh, no, wrong.
But so I didn't believe that. So
sure.
I was like going into all the specs and I was like, oh crap, let me just turn this up. There we go.
Look, that's the process though. Like that's part of the process. Things happen, you adjust.
Yeah, total accident, and I would never go back to that again, but
it is what it is.
That's just the way it happened at the time.
I love it. That's a funny story. Well, where are you guys at now? Like I know the Resurgence EP is out. Go get that, stream that if you want to listen to good music. The Climb, the Climb, the new mastered version, is that just what it is? The Climb mastered version? Or it's called like the Velvet remix or something.
Yeah.
What's in that? What's with the Velvet being added to that?
That's just part of my lyrics. Deep dark velvet treasures that that's part of the lyrics.
Yeah. And you just wanted you thought that would fit good in the.
I just threw out a title that I thought sounded kind of sexy. Like
that does sound dope.
It wasn't like thought out. It was like, first of all, we're gonna re-release this song. The title should probably be different. So I just threw out Velvet. At first, I was gonna call it the Alpha Master. And then I thought about it. I was like, I do so many things on the fly when it comes to like creation. Like I just go like with my gut. So I was going with Alpha Master, and then I was like, you know what? He says Velvet in the song. Let's do Velvet. Velvet sounds sexy. It's kind of colorful.
It does.
So I just called it Velvet Master, and then boom, that's what it was. That's the song title, and that's where
I dig it. Because I was looking at it and I was like, I wonder if Velvet is like some deep mystical meaning, or is it just the lyric? I didn't know if there was like a deep undertone or like, but I like it. It's just, the song's dope either way. And that has like you said, it does have like a sexy, smooth sound, like the Velvet Master.
There's no depth whatsoever.
Well, what's up next for you guys? Because you said you got songs on deck and you're ready to drop, and you're working on some marketing stuff. I know, like you're the business mind. When can I be ready to hear some more music, new music?
Isn't it quarantine, Glenn?
Yeah, we should be done with that soon. We're just doing we had some production issues that we're going with that we've ironed out, and we're finalizing that track. It took a while. The guy Johnny Polygon that recorded that contributed to it was having some issues. With he like got into like an accident or whatever, and like hurt his back or something. So it took him a while to record anyway, he got us the tracks, and like that's pretty much done. We're just spacing it out now, so that should be out. So what do you think, end of the month?
I mean, I actually just got your guitar parts before I got on the computer for this. So once that's all mixed in, I mean, you're probably looking like a 2-week gap between when it's mastered and when it's actually released. So just to be safe, I would probably say the beginning of June, probably first week of June, you'll have Starr Blazerz Quarantine featuring Johnny Polygon. It's a really dope record. It hits hard, and it's crazy. Like, it's something different from us, but it stays in line with what we are, how we're branding our sound, I think. And yeah, like the feature with Johnny Polygon, super dope. Yeah, I can't wait for y'all to hear it.
So within the next month or so, keep the eyes peeled, is what you're saying.
And you might even see, I wouldn't sleep on maybe like a 2-song release, maybe at some point, because we have so much music. You know, it's hard to just, you know, with so many songs on deck, it's like you don't want to wait till like November.
Sure.
That seems like so long from now.
Yeah, it seems like it sounds like forever.
Yeah, we've got a few records that have like a R&B-ish kind of like, I don't want to say too much, but a little bit of like that Michael Jackson Thriller vibe.
Okay.
We're thinking about prepping for like a fall release, but No, we might do like a 2-song EP maybe in July or something. Who knows?
Let's go.
The most important thing is to keep the records consistent and keep the quality consistent and keep keep listeners in tune with what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Nobody does a double A-side single anymore, so that's what we're gonna do. That's our.
Let's go, Glenn. Come
do a double A-side with no actual record.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That's a truly retro digital maneuver.
Let's go. Let's go.
This isn't like,
well, guys, it's been a pleasure having you guys on. I appreciate you both taking the time out of your day to come chop it up with random me here in Texas.
Yeah, man, it's been great.
So, Justin, introduce it online so we can Instagram up.
Yeah, where can we find you? Where can we find you on the interweb?
I'm just Polar Vortex on Instagram with instead of an O.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna find you after this.
Justin.
You know me, I'm on Sound Control _32 on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter at Sound Control BTS. Or you can find us both on Facebook, and just if you type the search bar Starr Blazerz, StarRBLAZERZ, will come up. We're doing a lot more promotion on our Facebook page. So yeah, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You find us individually. You'll find us both posting a lot about our upcoming moves and our recent work.
Let's go. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure chopping it up. This has been cool to connect. I'm glad you guys got to meet each other. I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, it was cool though. You guys have a great energy. You guys have super genius music minds. I mean, it's obvious you guys were born to do this, in my opinion. So keep doing what you're doing, because as a new fan and as a new listener, I 100% am a fan, and I believe in what you're doing. So I just want you to know that.
Thanks for having us, Kyle. Appreciate it.